Why EVs are piling up at dealerships in the US? Manufacturers of electric vehicles appear to be producing them more quickly than before. We will answer your question on who suffers the most. Naturally, that would be the dealers, the enduring intermediaries between supplies and buyers who are now compelled to fill their lots with automobiles that buyers do not wish to purchase, at least not in the quantities that automakers and regulators had hoped for. In 2024, new electric vehicles are lining dealer lots. We'll give you 7 main explanations if you're wondering why. Number 7. EV growth is lower than anticipated. EV growth has been far slower than anticipated. Verdict: a few years ago, Biden's officials and a few automakers looked to be on the same page when it came to their confidence in electric vehicles. They were all very certain that the most drastic change in the history of automobiles would be executed flawlessly in a relatively short amount of time. Because of this, the government projected that by 2032, 2/3 of new automobiles would be electric. EVs had a significant surge in popularity in the past, mostly due to early adopters. Rich customers and it lovers rushed to get these high-tech marvels. However, things are not moving as smoothly as everyone had hoped when it came time for regular customers to take action. Following a few years of nearly 100% annual growth, last year revealed a new pattern of slowing down. EV share eventually approached 8% of the market as a whole, but not at the anticipated rate. As we approach 2024, the growth rate is still declining. January had a 40% decline in growth over the previous year. Nonetheless, automakers, both established names and up-and-coming ones, are strongly promoting EVs. You can probably guess where all of this is going, as the production is higher than ever. Because supply is far more than demand right now, lots are crammed with electric vehicles and dealers are finding it difficult to move battery electric vehicles. Number 6. Production difficulties. As we just discussed, the market supply of EVs is currently well over 100 days on average due to the overwhelming number of EVs that are piling up on dealer lots. Naturally, automakers know that electric vehicles are sluggish sellers and that circumstances can change quickly. So some of them have already lowered their production targets for this year. The finest example is the F-150, which is now only being produced in half of the amount that was originally anticipated for this year. Because the production process for electric automobiles is far from optimal, they are stockpiling supplies just in case. Many automakers create far more electric vehicles EVs than they can sell due to ongoing issues with supply chains, particularly about suppliers of raw materials and batteries and subpar production lines. Since dealers are the ones who suffer the most once again when manufacturing stalls for any reason, you never know when it will happen. Number 5. Prices still too high. The early adopter phase has finally gone and most people aren't prepared to pay higher costs to achieve zero emissions. EVs are currently far too costly for the average customer. In 2023, the average cost of a car purchase was approximately $48,000, and for electric vehicles, it was very nearly $60,000. That is still a significant difference, particularly when we take into account that interest rates have increased significantly in recent years. Put another way, financing for new automobile purchases is expensive and does not require additional costs. In light of this, it is not surprising that the most expensive EVs like the Porsche Taycan, which has a starting price of approximately $92,000 but is typically paid in the 6 figures, are the slow sellers and have the largest market day supply. The Mercedes EQS and EQS SUV are 2 more expensive cars that come after that one, with a 239-day market supply. Exorbitant costs are undoubtedly a contributing factor, but not the only one. Simply glance at popular EVs. Even household brands like Nissan Leaf, which has an above-average 161-day market supply, are slow sellers. Number 4. Prolonged travel. From the standpoint of the buyer, EVs still raise too many questions. Not only are they expensive, but there are other valid considerations as well, including the fact that EVs are currently not as autonomous as conventional internal combustion engine vehicles. Customers should expect a little over 300 miles at most, which places a lot of restrictions on lengthy trips. EVs might be a fantastic option for short trips, such as everyday commutes. However, arranging a lengthy trip can quickly become a nightmare because you constantly need to plan and consider recharging, which is not only time-consuming but also quite difficult in terms of logistics. Put simply, it doesn't make sense to rely exclusively on EVs at this time. Number 3. Charging network. Even those who consider buying an EV hesitate, and the charging network, which is still far from ideal, is one of the key reasons why EVs are building up on dealer lots. As far as the user is concerned, this implies a whole new set of restrictions. First of all, even in cities, there are insufficient charges. Furthermore, not all of the chargers on public stations are fast, which adds time to the process. Ultimately, the user experience is not at all optimal. The finest illustration comes from a recent J.D. Power survey that reveals that, among other things, defective payment systems, broken cords, software bugs, and other issues caused every fifth effort to charge at a station to fail last year. In the San Francisco Bay Area, another survey found that just 72.5% of the public chargers installed by Electrify America were operational in this region of California. Considering everything, it's evident that the issue extends beyond the quantity of chargers. The reality is that owning an electric vehicle EV presents numerous problems and that the user experience is far from perfect, even in regions like California with the best infrastructure. Number 2, EV reliability. The fact that we now know EVs are genuinely far less dependable than their conventional gas-powered equivalents is another factor contributing to the decline in EV sales. As per the most recent analysis conducted by Consumer Reports encompassing almost 300,000 vehicles manufactured between 2000 and 2023, electric cars are responsible for 80% more issues than gas-powered cars. Compared to everything we've heard thus far, that is the exact reverse. We've been led to believe by the media that EVs are better in this regard and require less upkeep. That makes sense in theory when we take into account that electric automobiles have fewer parts than gas-powered cars. EVs are still relatively new technologies that require development time. Owners of EVs are currently experiencing a plethora of issues. Naturally, the first thing that springs to mind is problems with batteries and charging. But EVs also have a lot of other issues, particularly with the infotainment system and the fusion of all those electronic controls. There are a ton of build quality issues like misalignment, improper part assembly, etc. Number 1. A complete lifestyle makeover is needed. Because the government is pushing too hard rather than allowing things to grow at a natural pace, EVs are stalling. We consider people's need for time to adjust to new situations while discussing natural pace. They must adapt to the new reality, which calls for a total overhaul of their way of life. Starting with the most obvious difference between owning an EV and a gas-powered vehicle, charging is a whole other experience. Compared to gas-powered autos, it is far more time-consuming and requires more thorough planning. But that's not all. EVs introduce a whole new ownership paradigm. To begin with, upkeep is quite different. By the way, as things move forward, software updates will become far more common than oil changes and other such tasks, which dealers now face many challenges. Due to the most peculiar software problems, electric vehicles are currently parked at dealer lots and are awaiting repair. Owners could anticipate even more complications after the warranty expires. EV repairs are more costly for several reasons, not the least of which is the constant concern over the cost of replacing the battery. All things considered, owners of EVs receive greater complexity in exchange for paying higher pricing. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel for more interesting and informative videos.